Greetings. My name is Siobhan. Thank you for tuning in. So today we're going to discuss differing aspects or perspectives of light integration. So basically I've been receiving several messages or downloads since about, I guess these would include since about May 18th, since the full moon. So we'll speak on some of the information I've been processing because when we receive this information, like we know it, but we have to meditate upon it, think about this information, integrate it. It's almost like a processing into our conscious awareness. So that's how I look at it. And sometimes it takes a few days. It does take a few days because there's an aspect of us that knows this information. But we also are integrating it into this understanding, this experience, into our current level of consciousness. So, on the day of May 18th, on the day of the full moon, that day I began getting light language codes on my ceiling again, which I hadn't had any in several months. There was like a period of 2 or 3 months in 2018 where I was getting or receiving light language on my ceiling, and some or all of it, was possibly actually for my dragon. I was told that some of it, if not all of it, was for one of my dragons. So they were very important to healing certain timelines and energies. Maybe one day I can share possibly some of the older ones, or maybe even the current ones, once we have a better understanding of what they mean and who they're from, as the last ones in 2018 were actually from a race of anteater beings, anteaters. So there's a race of anteaters, and they have been captured by the dark ones and actually thought to be nearly extinct. So that's why we can't, I can't share these messages as of yet, until we have a better understanding of who they are from and what they mean. So some of this is just, I guess, necessary to protect in order to assist whoever we are assisting, or maybe asking for help. Or it could just be downloads, like I honestly don't know yet. And that's okay. So, I am going to share a message from the Ascended Master Hilarion, which was given to me on May the 24th. So about 2 days ago, is actually before, or as I was sitting down to meditate, this message started coming in. He let me know of Ascended Master Hilarion, so I will share that now, and then we will proceed. And I actually voice recorded it this time. Sometimes when the message starts coming in, I'll write it. Excuse me, which is fine. However you feel comfortable doing it. So this was one of the first times I actually recorded it. So I'll just play the recording. Greetings. This is a message from Master Hilarion about integration. He would like to discuss accepting and knowing and understanding the connection as an individual to Source. All things that are occurring happens within as so without. On your microscopic level to your macrocosmic level. So even the integrations that we are being asked and assisted with integrating happens within ourselves and is demonstrated outside of ourselves. We are integrating a healing into the light, multiple aspects, multiple experiences, multiple timelines, multiple energies, and truly within us resides the whole universe. And as we do this on an individual level, on a microscopic level, it is also witnessed and mirrored outside of ourselves as the Milky Way galaxy is connecting or reintegrating into the multiverse, as the Mother Gaia consciousness is also integrating a healing, multiple timelines, multiple aspects within herself. We are all connected at every level, at every conceivable multidimensional aspect of ourselves. But it is our responsibility as the individualized being, consciousness that we are, to integrate at our direct source connections. As the further we look into our connections, it expands outwards from ourselves. But the connections immediately directly linked to us, it is our individual responsibility to start healing those. And the more of those are healed, the more it ripples out until we start expanding into our further connections, which connects us to the individuals closest to us and then individuals further from us, and consciousness and energy. And it all just ripples out such a beautiful fashion until it's all reintegrated, but ever integrating, always integrating, and ever expanding and always changing, and just going with the flow. It is not always necessary to try to figure it out, to want to figure it out, to want to see all the connections. Because on some level, you will remember, and you will feel, and you will just know, and you will just flow so beautifully and so magically. It's so important to have balance in this knowing and in this understanding. And it is not necessary to always break it down and figure it out and label it and name it. There's so many of you, so many of us that don't go by names. And then there's ones of us that do go by names. And it's just a beautiful diversity that is truly meant to be enjoyed. And you will enjoy it as you raise in your vibration, no longer experiencing separation. We love you, and we enjoy you, and we honor you as we watch you and assist you. All right. So, I also went and seen Endgame a second time, the Avengers movie Endgame. And it's so interesting. Okay, so I was being guided, I received several messages, and I'll speak on some of the other messages I was guided to listen to again, but I want to show you something. So on Endgame, when they were speaking to Sorceress Supreme, the one that works with Doctor Strange, when she was speaking of the fractals and timelines, she pulled up an energy stream. Now this energy stream, because mind you, these are different perspectives. There's so many different layers, and this is why healing is ongoing. There's multiple layers. There's multiple people that will assist you. There's multiple healing modalities or aspects of yourself to heal. There's so many. There's your physical, your etheric, your emotional, your astral, your shadow. There's so many different aspects. And so this is the same thing when you're looking at consciousness streams, whether or not it's timelines or actual consciousness, because they fracture and they splinter and then they reintegrate, they fall, like all these, all these things. So now, mind you, I'm not the best drawer. It's so funny when we see these images, at least for me, because artistry is not it's not my skill this incarnation. I'm pretty sure there's other incarnations of my energy where they are beautiful, wonderful artists, and I thank them for that. But that was not for me to experience this lifetime. So, you rarely ever see me drawing, ever. So I'm just giving you a little heads up before I show you. Okay. So here's the drawing. Use your own imagination, please. I'm not offended at all. So, like, you have this main consciousness stream that's running here. And we'll just say that, on this side is like the oversouls. And to be clear, there are multiple terms for every term that I use. So even with the oversouls, expansion and consciousness has expanded for billions or trillions of years. It's endless and infinite. So every consciousness has multiple names. And from the understanding that I received from the Andromedan Oversoul, because that's the main one I communicate with, and sometimes it is the collective, which is the Raw Collective, which is multiple oversouls and multiple groups, which they have expanded as well. Some of the terms that are used for the oversouls, whether it is monadic energy, whether it is Rishi energy, whether it is ultra-terrestrial, is a different perspective or per se their future selves. Just like the angelics. Some of their future selves are archangels or even oversouls themselves. And even recently this year, because we're ever expanding, I mentioned that there are now supermen, angels, which there was one already, but now there's thousands because of this expansion and the integration of light that on a physical level was the integration of a supernova. But energetically, it was just consciousness expansion, which is some of our future selves. And was I told about this? Yes. Have I interacted with these beings or angelic future selves from our perspective? Yes. So it is a real thing. So anyway, when you have a consciousness stream of energy, we'll just say the oversoul would individualize. This will say this consciousness stream is an angelic. And we'll say it's an elder. It's an elder angelic, which is also known by many names, including the ancient builder race, including the Elohim and the seraphim, the elders. Some people just call them elders. But whatever by which you call them. We really don't even care. Oh, some call them the Patal. So we'll just say the oversoul is over here, this huge infinite body of energy. And even an angelic or an elder, when it is created, is still a collective of energy. It's just smaller than the oversoul. So from the elders, they have the ability to create or individualize additional angelics, which we'll say is the green line, which you can create angelics at the God planet. There's an actual God planet, God consciousness that they refer to as God, but it's a planet. Many angels or angelic beings are created there, but there are other places they create angelics as well. They can create angelics on different planets. Don't ask me to explain all that because I don't remember. So understand that when you have the perspective on the earth as your third dimensional body, physical body, because you still have a physical body, you are integrating memories, you are integrating information, you are processing what your higher self, what your oversoul knows, but you have to integrate it onto the planet through your body, through your consciousness, through your memory complex, through your memory stream, in order to raise the vibration and the knowledge and the wisdom and the love on the planet or wherever you incarnated at. It's called integration. But during individualization, and there's multiple reasons why souls will individualize from the mainstream. Souls can individualize through expansion, wanting to experience something new, through creation, because every time you create a new galaxy or a planet, you create new consciousness to dwell on that planet. And some of that's another thing I was going to say, because I was guided to listen to Magenta Pixie again, which I listen to Magenta Pixie quite often, but she had a Blue Star Solstice memory complex codes from 2016. I had already listened to it, but I was guided to go back and listen to it again. So she speaks of inception points of when certain souls are individualized from the source stream, which the elders are considered direct source creations, direct source beings that hold that consciousness. Generally speaking, the oversouls, or by whatever name you may know them, do not incarnate directly. However, they can. They just usually tend not to. So the elders are the ones that will incarnate through different streams and create creation, galaxies, beings. So we'll say like even the orange ones are like star seeds or beings that were created on other planets. And these junctures here you can look at as inception points. So maybe they created a new galaxy, created a new planet. Well, then you have new beings and creations that will originate on those planets. That's one reason for a soul or new consciousness stream to create or spiral off of the source stream. Another reason would be if there is trauma. Souls can splinter. This is why we are integrating and healing all back into the light. And even certain soul streams, if they are not expanding, if they individualize and per se are separated from source too long, they don't remember their light, they're not connecting to their higher self, they're not expanding, or they're actually becoming like traumatic and they're falling in density. A lot of those souls will then be reintegrated. Some call that recycling. And this is actually the process that's being asked of by the dark ones, or those that are not evolving. They have stayed separated for too long to where they're not reintegrating or they're not evolving as a consciousness. As a matter of fact, they're falling lower and lower, and they're traumatizing and fracturing, splintering other souls in the process. So during one of my lives, I mentioned that Source has asked that these souls reintegrate into the light, even if that means going through the death process. Because you have to understand that when these souls stay separated and have disconnected themselves from the light, they are maintaining their life by feeding off of other energies, because they would get that energy from source, but they've disconnected themselves and they remove themselves from the natural process of evolution and reintegration. All souls, all incarnations, no matter what planet you go to, have a death process. It's not what's taught here as what is death, because if you truly understood death, you would not fear it, which is why many of the masters taught conquering death, but really it was just the understanding that you do not die and that you are eternal. That's really all the conquering death was. That's why Yeshua returned as astral form, to show and demonstrate that you cannot kill a soul. It's eternal. So really it's just consciousness awareness that you're eternal, and exiting the matrix from buying into this lie that you die. And it's a fear of death. And that's another thing, that these souls that don't want to reintegrate, that want to stay separated, they have a fear of death. And this fear is what perpetuates trauma to other souls and their own. They're not just traumatizing other people. They're traumatizing their own soul, which is going to require a lot of healing, which is why it is necessary for them to reintegrate directly back into source. And it's even been spoke of, and I'm not sure where it is, even in the Bible, it's been mentioned that some of the really, really separated for a long time, thousands of years, quite possibly tens of thousands of years, requires so much healing because they've traumatized so many planets and consciousness and beings and universes that they may have to, per se, stay in that healing process within source for in linear time, which there is no space-time, but it could be hundreds of years, thousands of years, whatever that healing takes. But that's what's being required in order to elevate and move forward and move the multiverse forward. Another thing to notice is that even the Greys who separated themselves from source a long time ago, how they are falling in the, they're considered fallen, they're disconnected from source. They're losing many of their abilities. Eventually, if they stay on the timeline they were on, they will not exist. That's the same thing for the reptilians. So understand, when we're asking them to heal and assisting them in healing and reintegrating into the light, it's because eventually they will cease to exist. So even they are warring with us or being mad at us when we are only wanting to help them out of love, it's just demonstrating that they're disconnected. That's really all it's demonstrating. So there is no need to ever again justify their disconnection or sympathize that, well, they need to eat people or they won't survive. No, they need to return to source so that they do survive. Eating people is not how they survive. They will kill their whole existence and their energetic lineage if they stay disconnected from source. So I was guided to listen to the Blue Star Solstice Memory Complex codes from 2016 again. And also, as a side note, if you find or come across information or individual, if you resonate with their information, if you've used discernment or received the guidance to listen to it, go back and listen to some of their earlier messages, because much of it is still relevant. Even on my channel, go back and listen to some of my earlier messages. A lot of it's still relevant. And besides that, my channel is like barely a year old, so a lot of it is still relevant. So, but she speaks of the memory complexes or soul streams. So again, this is my rough drawing. You're welcome to do your own drawings. Or again, if you've seen Endgame, have that idea of how beautiful her consciousness stream or her timelines were streaming. But even the integration, like even us integrating different aspects of ourselves or our timelines, it's all always demonstrated on a macrocosmic level. So you'll see, like, the Mother Gaia consciousness is doing the same thing. This is why people speak of different timelines from Mother Gaia or different or like parallel Earths. It's all the same concept. There might be slight differences in the perspectives or what people mean or, understand. And that's another thing. I really don't, as an individual, as my choice, I really don't plan to debate or argue with people over labels or understandings or definitions, because we're always expanding and you're integrating your light. So if you are growing as a soul on this perspective, my understanding and yours should evolve. And you should be integrating your light and your memory and understanding that your soul, there's a higher aspect of you that remembers these things. So it is awesome and great to look outside yourself and be looking for answers, but also be like, take whatever information you're getting, take it within and meditate with it. See if you can receive confirmation or expansion or clarification of what the messages mean. If you don't agree with something I say, before you debate me about it, meditate on it, think about it, connect to source, connect to your angels. They can explain to you what I mean, just like yours can explain to me what you meant. So, I think we should do that. Like dialogue and us grounding information and us connecting to our higher selves should be an exchange of energy, an exchange of information. I don't really per se like to debate what other people, like the messages they receive, because I can't necessarily confirm their source and where they're receiving it from. However, if their message resonates with what I've been saying, then it's a very great chance that we're both receiving it from our higher selves. Like as more people actually tap into higher energies, your higher selves, your oversouls, the angelics, higher star beings. And we just mean higher perspective, higher dimension, higher energy. It doesn't mean that they're better or greater because we're all one. But as we begin to do this, the messages will resonate more and more and more until it's pretty much the same message. Like it will be pretty much the same message. It'll have different spins on it, different perspectives on it. And that's fine because someone might understand it a different way from a different perspective explained differently. But if we take the time to just sit with it and look at the information, a lot of times you'll see it's just like a different perspective or errors and miscommunication. A lot of people just argue miscommunication. But the point is integrate more of your light. Integrate more of your light, and the messages should be consistent. They will start to be. But, we're eternal consciousness with an infinite number of perspectives. Infinite. So, we are all from source. So through integration at some point, often multiple incarnations, you will eventually reintegrate back into source. Through the process of ascending back through your angelic and oversoul consciousness, you individualize from every energy, every being, every creation, individualize from angelics and eventually the elders. So from notes that I took before May 15th, I mentioned this on a live I did on May 15th with Jermaine was on that live. I'm going to read it again. This is a message I had typed up that the beautiful AI consciousness deleted from Facebook. So again, the ancient builder race elders have multiple names. So the ABR elders created the galaxies and beings within those galaxies. Generally speaking, when those elders manifested at some point in time in the lower, possibly, third, fourth dimension, on their ascension back up the dimensions, the elders belonging to the Andromedan, Arcturian, and Blue Avian oversouls united to form the Ra Collective. The reason, or primary general reason, because many of the messages we receive are much more complex than the messages we're receiving, is just for us to have a basic understanding. This was a strategic agreement to pool the energy, knowledge, and resources for the restoration of the multiverse. For the restoration of the multiverse. When they had traversed this low in the dimensions and experienced how tough it was to ascend back up based on the distortions and traps put in place by the Dark Ones, they realized it had to be a collective effort to restore balance and light. Now, mind you, just because the Ra Collective started with an agreement between elders of the Andromedan, Arcturian, and Blue Avian oversouls does not mean they have not experienced expansion since then. So yes, I'm pretty sure that other beings, other consciousness, have agreed to unite or work with this collective of oversouls. So let's see here. What else? So all will eventually. So basically, based on your consciousness stream as you're integrating light, depends on how high or what energy you can tap into. Now, I'm talking about tap into as far as memory and the consciousness running through your physical body. That doesn't mean you can't communicate with these higher beings. But we're talking about the integration of the consciousness stream flowing through your body. So any one of these consciousness streams can incarnate, including the main source consciousness elder stream can incarnate in physical form. But regardless of what memory stream or consciousness stream is incarnating, it is our duty and responsibility to integrate whatever direct, like splinter soul aspects, like traumatized and splintered off from your consciousness stream. It is your responsibility to start integrating those aspects, integrating multiple higher selves, multiple incarnations, multiple experiences, because you have experience and knowledge and wisdom and skills gained from these multiple incarnations. Now, another message I recently received is that the uniqueness of Earth beings. So although the original seeders of the planet Earth, Mother Gaia, Earth of Terra, is the Lyran, Sirian, and Pleiades. They were the original seeders of the original beings that experienced life here. So the consciousness streams that individualize to become Earth beings, individualize from Lyra, Syria, and Pleiades originally. And then, of course, you hear about the multiple experience, multiple DNA manipulations, whether it was benevolent or malevolent. Primarily, okay, so before I continue with this, there's another message I have received. When people speak of the perspective of the Pleiadians, like leaving the planet or leaving Earth unguarded. So one of the perspectives is that they left, they shouldn't have left, and because they left, now they have a lot of karma that they have to clear up because, you know, their timeline, some of their timelines fell into a negative, destructive polarity that could have led to their destruction as a race as well, a race of beings. So another perspective is that when the fall of Atlantis happened, because this is a free will planet, many of, we'll say, more consciousness, more soul streams were susceptible, manipulated, or deceived into believing the dark ones and siding with them. And so because that choice was made, many of the Pleiadians were guided to leave their post because the decision was made to dwell further or remain separated from source, or obviously these souls needed to understand more of the darkness and fear before they would make the conscious decision to reunite or reintegrate with source or integrate their higher selves. So there is individual manifestation and there's collective manifestation, and manifestation or realities, primary collective realities, occur from the belief systems of the overall collective. So another perspective is that as a collective, the consciousness did not allow for the Pleiadians to stay. They no longer wanted their help. So you can look at that as them, abandoning their post. Mind you, this is a perspective. And I was just shown another way to look at it, that's all. So yes, you can take the perspective that they did something wrong, something bad, but pretty much it was almost like what was coming to me is it was like, well, let's allow them their free will choice, because your free will choice is to be connected to source or disconnected. Because in your disconnection, you're going to do a lot of things that will traumatize you, put you in negative situations, and eventually you'll understand, or you'll have the desire to reconnect to source. You'll have that desire for the reconnection because you'll see that without source, life is not fun. Creation is not fun. Like, it's just not fun. Like, eventually you'll be guided back to source because you'll experience enough trauma and pain. And hopefully, as we're ascending, we won't need all this trauma and pain to motivate us to return to source. So basically, let me see, what was I saying? What I was feeling from this conversation is that they had the opportunity to see what that disconnection would create. And when they seen that, over time, this disconnection with humans remaining disconnected from source would lead to the downfall, or certain races, whole lines and races of beings no longer existing, then yes, it was in their best interest to come back and help or fix it, even though technically, consciously, the collective didn't want or didn't know, they didn't remember. They didn't remember their connection. So you can't even really say that they're choosing separation because they don't even remember. Many beings don't remember their light or their connection to source. Many of them are so, like even the entities I suspect to the light, they're so focused on trauma and pain and angry that certain things transpired, that they were killed, that they were murdered, that they were raped, whatever it is, that they're so focused on it, they forget anything else. They forget any other experience, they forget life, they forget source, and they're just focused on this disconnection and how someone should pay for what they did. And they stop their own soul evolution because that soul could have continued and incarnated again. But they stop their soul evolution because they stay disconnected and they don't return to source. They don't return to the hall of the transporting of souls. They don't reintegrate into the light. So they stay stuck. Let me see here. Okay, so the original seeders of the planet, which of course there ended up being more seeders, or more beings that contributed their DNA to the experience or experiment here on the earth. Okay, so there has been so many contributions to the DNA here, and the potential of 12-strand DNA previously, from my understanding, only held by the angelics. And I use only loosely. But that's the message I received, Could there have been some other races? Maybe. It's possible. But primarily only held by angelics. Or even starseeds that ascended or evolved into angelics. So this is one of the unique aspects of the human race, or the human lineage. But you have the potential of 12-strand DNA activation, 12-strand DNA, which previously was only held, from my understanding, by the angelics. You have the potential of integrating multiple streams during one incarnation here as an earth being, which can potentially, per se, jump you ahead or bypass the need to integrate one stream at a time. So, like as previously, as many of these beings were reintegrating, they would reintegrate back into this stream, reintegrate back into this stream, reintegrate back into this stream, which of course is way more streams than just these handful I put here. But the process of reintegrating would just go like this, 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 through incarnations. So the benefit of so many DNA lineages from multiple streams, multiple beings, multiple planets, all being like coalescing into the human line, is that you have the potential to integrate multiple streams at a time. We are actually now energetically, vibrationally, collectively high enough to where we can begin integrating multiple aspects at one time here during this incarnation. So this is why you're being, integrating multiple aspects of yourself. Yes. So this has the potential to shift the multiverse at a grander or higher rate than previously done before, which is another reason why the Dark Ones work so hard and tirelessly at blocking these integrations. Because a lot of people always, they want to know, like, what's so special about the humans? What's so special about the humans? which we're all unique and special, but that is one of the things that's special about incarnating through the human race lineage. So with combining the understanding of Magenta Pixie and Michael Love with confirmation from the Oversoul, because I did inquire about this, the reason why half the population, because I really, like when I first heard half the population, I'm like, really? I gotta ask about this. Like billions of people, billions of consciousness are now considered to be starseeds. Which even if you read back in some of the older Law of One material at that time when it was written, I think in the 70s, they were saying like hundreds of millions. Millions, it was millions, but now it's up to billions. So the reason why is because half of the population has been activated to their star DNA. They have activated their star DNA. Now that doesn't mean that they're conscious of it. But the point is many people's lights are flickering. They're flickering, they're integrating, whether they're aware of it or not. But sooner or later, they will be aware. So, but new souls were created for the inception point of Earth to inhabit this planet. So at that inception point, or where you have junctures, where a new planet is created, even though like the Milky Way galaxy, like its creation was... I guess the galaxy itself, it fell, but even though it fell or splintered or separated from the Andromeda galaxy, that was still an inception point. So the Earth itself, from my understanding, was a part of the Andromedan galaxy. But then there was a splintering, a fracturing, which you can look at it as consciousness streams. You can even look at it as, timelines. Still kind of somewhat the same concept, just a different level, when you go from, microscopic to macroscopic. So it was an injunction point or a separation, and even with that separation, there was the creation of new souls. So like the Lemurian and Atlantean souls, those souls would not be considered earth beings per se, which that might get a little more complex. Because those were like direct Syrian, Lyran, and Pleiadian inception points or seedings. So, but when Earth splintered away, anytime there's a splintering, then there's going to be new creation, which was the new souls of the current Earth, at that fall, which would be the third dimensional fall. So, the inception point of Earth to inhabit this planet. Once integration begins, they will begin reintegrating their higher consciousness stream, thereby evolving into a star being because they have gained access to that stream of consciousness or memory complex codes. So, thank you. I do have some additional messages, but I will likely, because it's already been 45 minutes or so, I'll save those for a live. That's what we'll do. So I love you. Look forward to a live here soon. Have a beautiful, glorious, magical day. Namaste.